Sitaram viewers, and welcome once again to the Hindu Perspective, a program prepared and presented by Swaha for the purpose of bringing greater understanding about the tenets of Sanatan Dharma and Hinduism to the national community. Once again, we have with us our distinguished panelist, Pandit Gyandev Prasad, senior member of the Dharmandal of Swaha and the spiritual leader of the Swaha Sukh Shanti Bhakti Mandali. And we also have Pandit Ishar Madhu Maharaj, the principal of the Swaha Hindu College, as well as the president of the organization. And we begin in customary fashion by with an opening prayer. And once again, I ask Pandit Ishar to lead us in opening prayer.
Sitaram, everyone. We all join together in our minds. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samsita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Om Ganganapate Namaha Om Ain Saraswatyai Namaha बोले श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय, सरस्वती माता की जय, स्वाहा माता की जय.
Thank you, Panditji. And as we begin our program today, there are a few things that we would like to share and discuss. But of course, we are now coming out of the Swaha's 30th anniversary celebration. And many of you would have seen our program on ITV. And I'm sure that you would have enjoyed our program. It was a wonderful program. And Pandit Ishar, we say congratulations to him as the president of the new executive, together with the members of his executive, who did a wonderful job in preparing the program and ensuring that we had a successful Swaha 30th anniversary. And on that day, those of you who have seen the program, you'd have seen, a very passionate message by Pandit Gandhi, who is here with us today, as well as words shared by Pandit Ishwar, who would have given us an idea of what is the direction of Swaha post-COVID, what are some of the events that we can look forward to. So that as we begin our program, I think that this will be a good starting point where we can probably just discuss some of the highlights of the program and maybe reinforce some of the messages that were shared on that day. And for Pandit Ishar also as the president of Swaha, to give a little information, a little insight into what we can expect moving forward, as well as Pandit Gandhi was a founding director of the organization, to share his views, his perspectives, and maybe his expectation as well as we continue building our organization. So I think that we normally start with Pandit Gandhi. We think this time might be appropriate for us to start with our president, Pandit Ishwar.
Okay, Sitaram and our viewers, certainly Saturday the 16th was a wonderful event, one that was eagerly anticipated, and I want to thank Panajeda for those kind words and commending the executive. In just about a month, we would have tried our best to put forward a program of substance, of some standard, and I think to a large extent we were able to do that. Many of our devotees of Swaha and many of our viewers, I'm sure, perhaps were not able to make it for whatever reason. We still had a wonderful turnout. The temple was filled, and that was something that warmed our hearts. But for the others who were not able to be there and enjoying the celebrations, they were able to view it on ITV. And certainly we had wonderful presentations here by our members, all present in this panel, and by the various pundits of Swaha. And you would have been able to witness most of it, I'm sure, on ITV. Now, 30th anniversary, 30 years of Swaha, it means a lot to us, as I'm sure to you, the devotees and members of Swaha, and many of you who are not members of Swaha and are viewing would have recognized the tremendous contribution that Swaha has made in bringing about changes, positive changes in national landscape. And we could go from, the point of view of selecting certain major occasions where I believe Swaha would have had an impact, a big impact, things like Ganesh Utsav, where so many thousands of people would come together at a time where people still were doing Ganesh Utsav in their smaller groups. Today, it has transformed. So Swaha has been able to transform national society and Hinduism in that many temples join together. And people now are rushing to collaborate and ensure that they have a bumper Ganesh Utsav festival. This would have been just before COVID, and I'm sure it will continue this year. And pioneering that would have been, of course, from right where IETV is hosted, Panamaideo and Sri Ram Dham, and the rest of Swaha would have joined together. So these are some of the positive impacts that Swaha has made. And we haven't even spoken about things like changes and modifications to the way in which we do various things. On this program, we would have spoken about Swaha's view on weddings and how important it is to treat that event with respect and consideration. It's something that we cannot allow to just go by as a party and a fete. So we believe the religious aspect, spiritual aspect needs to be maintained, firmly maintained. And these are just some of the things where Swaha stands strong in terms of our religion and spirituality and Hindu philosophy. But then our outreach is a lot more than that. So many of you who know Swaha would know of the Swaha newsletter. Before the Swaha newsletter, Panagyandev was well known for Gyani Kahani and telling stories on the Swaha program, where Panajeda, I could tell you, growing up as a much younger man, looking at Swaha, which at that time would have been, I think, Channel 4, AVM Channel 4, I think the program used to be shared on, or we could view it on that station. At the time when there were only two stations, TTT and that station. It was a wonderful program. It was something eye-catching, something that attracted people from across the country because nothing else like that. So Panagande was a storyteller there that you would have seen a puppet also. It was Panamaideo doing the puppet Raj. And these are some of the things that Swaha would have done to capture the attention of the national population. Things have changed, and recognizing the changes, we have started to do things differently. Hence, this program, where you see the three of us on Zoom, rather than going into the studio, because we started doing this over the period of the pandemic. Now, as we go forward, a lot of the programs that we want to do will come back, but with certain changes. So we were thankful, we celebrated, and I must say, special thanks and blessings, Dhanyavad to Divya Ashram, the Pandit Professor Prakash Prasad, and his Dharmapatni, Mrs. Mala Prasad, who's the chairperson, and the entire executive and membership of Divya Ashram who hosted Swaha, hosted our national event. We must thank them for their contribution, and other temples and centers who worked with them. And there's enthusiasm for our next program that's coming up, which will be our Indian Arrival program on the 30th of May. More details will be forthcoming, and certainly you may hear it first on this program before you see it being featured. And then various other things that you'll see on social media. The Swaha newsletter that has been going for 30 years. We are looking at revamping it and ensuring that it's a little bit more attractive to individuals. So it's currently an online newsletter. We're looking to change up things a little bit to make it more useful and make it more meaningful and beneficial to you, or viewers, or membership, or followers. I hand over at this time to Panagyandev. I know he'll want to share sentiments on the 30th anniversary.
Thank you, Bharatishwar. I must join in saying commendations to you and your national executive for hosting this program with total and complete support of the Ashram and his spiritual leader, Professor Prakash Prasad. Indeed, the entire Soha came together and it was a great success. Afterwards, they had this entertainment. We must say thanks also to Shivan Ramuta and all those others who entertained the crowd for quite a while. I started listening to them, karaoke and other things. So all those who contributed anyway to the success of this 30th anniversary, we say to them on behalf of Swaha, indeed we are grateful, recognize their presence, recognize their contribution, and indeed this is something worthy of remembering. And from my understanding, it will be shown on ITV, maybe in the future a few times. And also one of the fundamental things about the 30th anniversary was that you're kind of tracing the development of Swaha. So we'll talk more about that. It's my personal project at this point in time.
Yes, thank you to both pundits, and yeah, definitely, as they both would have expressed, it was a wonderful event, and what is noteworthy is that that was not a one-off event. It really signaled a reigniting of the organization, and that was the first in a series of events to celebrate 30 years of the birth and the growth of the organization. And of course, on that day, there was a mention and discussion on the role of the head of the organization, the original head, the Shangachar, and the role that he would have played in the formation of Swaha, as well as the forming that identity of the organization and setting the tone for the pundits and what they stand for and what we represent. Just to recall, and this is a long time ago, but I still recall this when Swaha was formed. I believe that I was in E-levels, advanced levels at the time. When I check my age now, to 30 years ago, when I do the simple maths, I would have been around 17 to 18 years or so. So I'd have been in advanced levels. And, at that time, there was a lot of negative sentiments over the organization. It was a joke. And I'm sure that Pandadishwar, we are not different in age. So he would have been in high school at the same time also. And, there's a lot of talk, a lot of negativity. And the sentiment would have been the same, that, Hindus cannot unite, and it was seen as a division of the Hindu community and a breaking up of the Hindu community, when in fact, at that time, the Hindu community was already broken. That there was a lot of conversion at the time. A lot of persons were leaving the religion, and in particular, younger Hindus. So, for example, Panditishwar and myself would have come from Hindu homes, Pandit family, that lineage. So for us, it was different. But it was very difficult for us to meet persons who were really committed and dedicated to Hinduism and really understood it from a particular perspective. I always say that out of my own family, the first person that I met who was very similar to me was Pandadishwar when we met at university. And, in my first year, I met him in my second year of university, that there really wasn't anyone like that. And even then, the UE Hindu Society and all of that, persons had a different perspective on what being a Hindu was about. At that time, it was seen as okay to party, to go Shivratri, and then go Carnival the next morning. And those things, no one spoke out against that. And there was a lot of things that needed fixing. There was a lot of enlightenment and understanding that was needed. So I remember those days, when I was a teenager. I'm in my 40s now, late 40s. But as a teenager, I remember, when the organization started and the type of negative sentiment, persons were saying that, an organization like that will not exist. It will not continue. It is going to die out. And, 30 years later, we can be proud of where the organization has grown. And of course, it is because of the contribution of every person here and those who would have gone in the past and those who are here now to contribute. So that's definitely, a positive for organization, and it augurs well for the future. We spoke about the program that we had before ITV, and I know that Pandit Ishwar will remember this also. Just reminiscing, even UE in the society, there was a program that we did on our original, the Swaha program. You remember that, right?
Of course,
yeah. So, even from then, and we had a lot of involvement of the young persons, that those at the university level, the educated Hindu, they understood the value of this organization and the contribution that we made. And, this has been entrenched over the years, and we are where we are now. Now, Pandit, I'd like to bring up a topic of discussion, and, we can comment on it, and it comes out of two things. The first one is a comment that was made, or a few comments, on the day of the program about the Shangachar tradition that we follow as members of Swaha, and the standards that we have set for us. Recently, I want to say recently over the weekend, I attended a Bhandara, a Madhyam Shodashi as we refer to it, and the statement was made. I had to do one and then attend one for a close member of the organization who unfortunately her father passed away. But in the first Bhandara, when you sit sometimes and the fire splash up and all of that, your clothes get dirty. So when I went in the other one, they were saying, the members of the Tamil saying, Pandit, that your clothes looking staying up, that is not how your clothes normally is. So I explained to them. And she was saying that, her sister who lives in South, she always makes a comment that when you see Swaha pundits on television, that the clothes are always shiny. And we, clean. It looks clean and, shiny. And we're always wearing white. And that became a topic of discussion on that day. That, many other pundits, we are not criticizing, we are just commenting that many of the other pundits that we see, other persons that they wear different colors. But if you look at our Swaha pundit, we always wear white. And if you know the Shankachar wore nothing besides white. And, we follow those traditions. So that was just something that was noteworthy. And I'll just ask the pundits to comment on that, whether it's just something we choose to do, or is it something that, we feel that we are following because of the trend that has been set by the Shankachar, and whether there's any value to that, or, pundits should wear whatever they feel comfortable wearing, So it's just an interesting point that came up, something that was noted, and that many of our viewers, they admire the pundits because of the way that we dress, and, that standardization in the color of the outfit that I, for myself, I know it to be white from since I was young, but whether it should be so or not, maybe the pundits can share some information on that. And Panagyan, maybe we can begin with you.
Panditji, you mentioned the Shankachar tradition. White signifies purity. So a symbolic gesture of our lives or actions in a religion, we tend to stick with white. It does not mean to say you can't wear any other color. Because these days, with the advent of these modern setup, computers and so on, and Facebook and so on, sometimes, the pundits feel inclined to present themselves according to the appropriate occasion. Some of our weddings, they may wear a bright red, or for Janet, they might want to wear a yellow. I have no problem with that. But the organization doesn't have a fixed dress code as such, as to what the pundit should wear. But basically, it is white. I want to take it on a bigger scale of view. That the Shankachar tradition refers to what you're supposed to be doing. Clothes is important, yes. And you mentioned you went to a Bhandara. And I just want to share my experience yesterday and the day before. One of Shankachar's person who used to call him to puja has passed away. And obviously, they asked me, but my day was in area, but he had other commitments, so they asked me. When I went, I was surprised. First, when I went, he first said, Baba, I can't bow, I said, why? He said, tell him when you have funeral, they can't bow to the Baba. I said, I'm going to bow to the dead man just now. You want to bow to him? Well, go ahead. Go ahead. He will bless you. Go. It might be so arrogant. And people believe these things. People believe these things. I don't know why they keep on spreading stupidness. This is why Swag was formed for enlightened ritualism. I'll just share one again, and I'll pass on back to Panajayat. But two, opposite temple I am associated with, there are two deaths. And obviously, because they engage with other people, I didn't make a fuss. I said, who will call? But the Pandit who went there told the people, do not go to temple. Someone has died, you can't go to temple. He come and ask me, I say, if you want to believe stupidness, go ahead. But it just shows that the other Pandit doesn't want people to go on Swaha temple. So they usually a good excuse. Someone has died, so you can't go to temple. So I asked him, what are you doing for Bhandara Day? We're going to read Gita part and do puja. Dajnana puja. So you can't go to temple where puja is taking place. And people are confused. In my opinion, the confusion in Hinduism is caused by Pandits. I'm not saying Swaha Pandits. Pandits who have their own agenda. And then yesterday in the funeral, and he long time ago, finally I went. And we all know, Panajayat, Panishwar, when you're taking the departed one to the pyre, the foot goes first, the head is behind. When they reach there, the fellow made them put the body sideways, the Baba. So the people who I went with watching me, I say, you want to do stupidness, do it, I will leave here. The body, as far as I know, my father and everybody who did his funeral sanskar carried the foot first and to the pyre. But it's like kind of sideways. Like that was that style. Maybe it ring on me first, elbow, arm, I don't know what it was. So I told him, I said, I'm not going to do that. He said, Baba, he didn't write it wrong. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know where he came from, what he's doing, he business. But I'm telling you, tradition is important. If I carry body backward, forward, downward, upward, it doesn't make a difference. But you follow tradition, our sanskar, what our parents used to do, what our grandparents used to do is important. But I want to say the point that Swaha is very fixed in what we do. We do not condone foolishness nor dotishness. We do not condone things that are not sanctioned by scriptures or by history. And I'll end with this, Panajayat. People does know the meaning of it. They quote it regularly. Raghukul riti sada chali. Raghukul riti sada chali ai. Prana jai varu bachana na jai. It means what? The tradition of the Raghukul, of Sri Ram Raghu dynasty, it continues. They'll die and change it. That's not a religion. No. That is tradition. The Raghukul riti tradition. So we are saying our tradition. But don't give it up to say that, because stupid people. Remember that line. Ishwar voice is going to sing it for me. My God, I try, but no voice. Remember it. Raghukul riti sada chali ai, prana jai varu bachana jai. If it's not in our tradition, don't do it. And don't break the tradition either. Panajayat.
Thank you, Pandit. And I think it's easy to remember the term, the line, Raghukul riti, because there's a Bollywood song, a nice song actually. And the song, in the song they're playing Ramila, and if you haven't seen it, you could probably look at it. I don't know if you all saw it.
I also
The song. It starts Raghukul riti sada chali ai, and then it sings about Sri Ramachandra ki jai, and then
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you saw the video in a village in India, they are doing Ramila, and the entire village is doing Ramila. And the men are dressed as monkey and they climbing on the wall and jumping. It's really nice. And the entire scenery is nice, So I was even saying to the persons in the temple that what is the meaning of that line, and that it actually came from Ramayana. So they like the song, but they don't know that it came from Ramayana, what it means, So Bollywood could be a good thing or a bad thing, right? There's some good in it, like for example that. But I'm just saying that in case anybody wants to have a look at it. It's one of the clean videos, one of the good ones that probably has a positive message. So, Panditishwar,
I think the movie is Ram Leela, if I'm not mistaken. The name of the movie is Ram Leela.
I don't know the name of the movie.
Okay.
But maybe yeah. I'll find out for next week. Right. So, but Panditishwar, in terms of the observation that was made about the clothing, and then what Pandit Gyanu may have mentioned. Otherwise, what would you like to contribute to that discussion?
No, I will say, I agree with Panagando that people are free, and pundits in particular, are free to wear clothing of their choice. It just so happens that majority of Swaha pundits, we excuse Pandit Jairat. For now, he's in a different color.
Yeah, this is not puja, right? So
right. But that's the disclaimer. It is for puja we are talking about. We generally only wear white. And I could say even my mother, who looks at the program, she sometimes asks, well, how come I always wear white? Because there are other pundits that we associate with, members of our family, and other pundits who may not be members of Swaha, but are close to us. They may wear different colors. So if it's Bhagavad or Krishna Katha, you wear yellow, Janeiro, you wear yellow, things like that, right? Nothing is wrong with that. We ourselves, once in a while, I recall for Ganesh Utsav, sometimes some of the pundits may wear orange, or at least have a shawl or kanhawar, something like that. But we generally stick to the white, and I agree because of what Panagyandev mentioned, purity. That white color itself, so not that we are alluding to the fact that the pundits are pure and sincere and truthful. Of course we try to be, but at the same time, this is the ideal that we want. This is the high standard that we want to take our followers and our devotees to. So we dress in white because of what it represents. White also, color of Shiv, color of Satyanarayan Swami, also white, extremely important. Color of truth also. And then all other colors, if you were to separate white light in the spectrum, then white light separates into all other colors. So everything really evolves or devolves, if you want to look at it like that, from that white. So white is the color, but it doesn't mean that anything is wrong if other pundits wish to dress in fancy colors and to make themselves more presentable, as Pandit Gandhi said. And I must make the point, we generally, sometimes we may speak about other pundits and sometimes viewers may say, well, Swaha pundits only talking about themselves and praising Swaha. There are other pundits, and I'm sure Pandit Gandhi would agree. I remember pundits from we can say other organizations such as the Mahasabha and other Hindu organizations that always were known for wearing white, strictly white, like former Dharmachara and so on would generally wear white. I don't want to start calling names because for anyone to say we're singling out people, but a lot of the senior pundits were distinguished also because perhaps Pandit Gandhi or Pandit Jayadar, they also came from similar tradition and background where they understood simplicity, humility, and how important it was to represent a certain ideal. And you would have seen that some of the pundits that have gone, that have passed on, they were recognized and known for dressing strictly in white also. And these were not Swaha pundits. But we see that maybe the younger generation that has come from that same lineage, they are following the modern tradition. And they are free to do so, but we stick to this tradition. And then in terms of Shankaracharya ji and the Shankaracharya tradition, remember the 30th anniversary was also the death and 15th death anniversary of Shankaracharya Pandit Hari Prasad. Among many things that I would remember him saying, Pandit Gandhi may remember this better, Besh, Bhav, Bhasha, Bhajan, Bhojan, those 5 things. Principles then, and they are principles. The clothing, the guise that you wear, the clothing that you wear, the food that you eat, the type of bhajans you sing, the language that you speak. What's the other one? How that attitude, that you know, aura that you exude. Bhesh, Bhav, Bhasha, Bhajan, Bhojan. Those 5 things extremely important. So as you live your life as a Sanatanist Hindu, what kind of clothes are you wearing? How are you speaking to your loved ones and others? How are you speaking to others in society? What kind of language are you using? What kind of bhajans are we singing? Right? What kind of food are we eating? And what is the attitude that people, when you look at a pundit, is the pundit peaceful? Sometimes pundits could get angry too. Pundits could get upset too. But generally, does that pundit have a divine aura or some feeling that you can approach them, go to them and get some support, get some counseling, get some word of advice to help you along your path? These are the things that I would recall and I remember when we think about what Shankaracharya represents and what our pundits, the ideals that our pundits are trying their best to live up to. Najaidat?
Yes, thank you, Pandits. And yes, so I guess yes, there is freedom to wear as clothing as we see fit. I mean, I personally like the white and how it looks, and even looking at the program, there's a certain as you said, purity. There's a certain not standardization necessarily, but there's an appeal. But again, taste is personal. So that, I brought up the point as, we spoke about what the Shankaracharya and some of the lessons and some of the things we have observed and what others are saying about our pundits also. Now, Panditji, you mentioned that, on the program we talk a lot about Swaha pundits. So maybe the point I'm going to make is not going to do that any favors. But I wanted to continue on the discussion of pundits because the pundits are the leaders of the organization. And where we are today is really based on the effort and the sacrifices that were made by the founders of the organization as well as those who came after. And we have seen in the initial days of the organization, a certain group of pundits would have been taking the lead. As the organization grew, there were a second set of pundits that started to take the lead. So for example, the generation of Pandit Ishra and myself, Pandit Omadat, Pandit Ravidat. So there's a second wave of pundits, and now we are seeing other pundits that are a third wave that has stepped in now and are taking responsibilities. So on the day of the program, you'd have noticed that singing along with the pundits we had, and Pandit Ishar. If I miss out anybody, let me know. We had Pandit Tarun, we had Pandit Arish, we had Pandit Chandradev. Those are three of the,
Pandit
the
Vinayak.
Pandit Vinayak. So those are the third wave pundits that would have come in, that you would not have traditional scene participating in these events, and they are now taking leadership role in organizations. I know that Pandit
There was
Vinayak is
Pandit Kavish also
Pandit Kavish
was
also.
there during the Havan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Pandit Kavish is working with Pandit Maideo, helping to run Swaha Shriram Dham. Pandit Vinayak is working with Pandit Balaram in helping to run Swaha Om Shakti Mandali. Pandit Arish is working with under the guidance of Pandit Hardev, the Paramachar. And then we have Pandit Tarun and Pandit Chandradev, who is working with Pandit Ishwar and Pandit Balaram at Tulsi Manas Mandali. So, we don't have a lot of pundits, but there's a certain criteria for our pundits. And we always, we take pride in the quality of our pundits. Every single pundit of the organization has a professional qualification, has an academic qualification, as well as is qualified in the field of, well, I wouldn't say spirituality, that's a quality, but qualified in terms of the performance of rituals and the understanding of scriptures, etc., because we do have a formal pundit training program, so that we ensure, and also we ensure that our pundits, they have certain organizational capacity, because we expect that our pundits, they are not just ritual performers, but they're able to run organizations. So as you have known, Pandit Gyane was a past chairman of the board of Swaha. He was a past president. Myself, I'm a past president of the organization. I've been on many committees, same as Pandit Gyane. Pandit Ishwar also, he's he's the principal of the high school, as well as he's the current president of the organization, and he served as the secretary of the board of Swaha for probably more than 10 years or so. And all of us, we are in administrative and leadership capacity and roles, and therefore that puts us in a position to run the organization, not only from a spiritual and religious side, but also from a leadership side. So when we speak about the leadership of the organization and the quality of the pundit, I think that it will be remiss of us if we do not, make mention of the minimum qualification that we need, and I would say the selection criteria that we use to ensure that the pundits that we have, they can make a contribution towards the organization. So, I don't know if any of the pundits would like to, add to this or comment on this point as it relates to the quality of our pundits and the involvement of a new set of pundits within the organization.
Definitely. Jada did not mention, but it's good mentioning that in Swaha we have like Professor Prakash, president of UTT. We have Dr. Lomas, you have Dr. Umesh, you have other highly qualified professionals who are pundits, who have served and continue to serve in Swaha. And this is what makes Swaha great. I'd just like to mention that sometimes people hear about the Ramayana. Sri Ram built a bridge in 7 days. And then what happened? They never really mention or think the managerial skill of Sri Ram, the same as God. But in Swaha, we look at it from that point of view. He is divinity, but he came on earth as man. I exemplified managerial skills. As Pandit Jaidat mentioned, managerial skills. Pandit Jaidat is highly qualified also in quality management with a lecturer. He's a lecturer. He's working in School of Business and other highly qualified areas.
UTT now.
UTT now. He left School of lecture at UTT now. Right? So we have, and this is why Jaidat made a comment. We don't have much pundits because we don't want fellows who come and say, I have a son, can I have a bell? I want to go to puja for you. You ask you, what do you have in your head? What do you have in your qualification bag? You're not saying that plays a part, but if a man can pass a degree, if a man can get an A level and pass a degree, it means if intellectually he may be challenged, you're not sure. But the possibility of being professional is greater by having these qualifications. We're not saying qualifications make you, but qualification is a foundation upon which you can stand and go and meet the community. Because these days there are many challenges. I'm sure many pundits have challenges. I experienced many challenges. People question, People stand up in a satsang, in a yag, in a temple, and say, Baba, I want to find out this. in front of everybody. If you do not know, I can't answer, then what happens? Not only the only organization, you yourself looks bad. And then what happens is there are many people who are not qualified in terms of how we believe they should be qualified, but they go and learn Hindi, learn Sanskrit, and they want challenging the orthodox way. So they have learned Sanskrit, they have learned, not Sanskrit, more than they learn a little bit of Hindi. And most of them sing well. So singing well, qualified, you want to be a Pandit these days. Not in Swaha. If you're a Pandit, you have to learn to sing, obviously. But singing well is not the thing to put on Singhasan. But I have seen now with multimedia, on TV and so on, Facebook and so on, many Pandits pronouncing words terrible. They do not know the meaning. I've heard, because it's our duty to put on and hear what people are saying. Read their mind and translate something totally different. To suit their ends and means. Swaha does not subscribe to that. We are saying, as Pandits, qualify yourself, use a word, be able to express yourself, have a qualification. So for us, Dakshina is not means of livelihood. I must add that my father days, he went to school in standard 3. But he did not use Dakshina as a livelihood. People worship him because he was great, he knew, and he was intelligent. Everybody recognized him. And to put it simple, when our ancestors came, they were branded as illiterate. So we analyze that and say in Trinidad, well, everybody is illiterate, but everybody does know French. Everybody does know Russian. Everybody does know any other language like that. So if not knowing a language make you illiterate, then everybody is illiterate. So what happened? They branded all people illiterate because they did not know English. And so the Shankaracharya tradition, he made that one of his pillars, foundation of the organization. Go and get qualification and simultaneously learn your dharma, learn your religion, but get qualification so you can stand on your own 2 feet. And there a man tell you so whatever it is. So when you see Paramanand was kicked out of Mahasabha headquarters, when Maida was kicked out of Pakshim Kashi's call, when we were kicked out, I was a Mahasabha school teacher, I left. When we will move out, we did not say, oh God, we are no money now, we are no job now, you know. We are qualified, we can go somewhere else and do our job and do our religion also. So we use as a foundation, education, but you show that we call it a principle, Prajayadat, qualified in all these areas. So whatever happens, you have a foundation of qualification in a secular way. So you have your foundation, and then dharma is being serviced because this is what we are born to do. This is what we have been given that responsibility from birth. So for Swaha, intellectual, Swaha, learned Pandits, they've been the foundation of their secular knowledge, and then spiritual knowledge comes after.
Thank you, Pandit. Pandit Ishwar, would you like to make a contribution?
Just to add that and endorse really, rather what Pandit Gandhi was saying, yes, we do have a number of other Pandits. So some of the Pandits that were mentioned, Pandit Dr. Umesh, Pandit Dr. Lomas Prasad, we have Pandit Rabidat and his children, his sons are also Pandits as well. That's Pandit Rabidat Maharaj. We have Pandit Vashish Prasad, Pandit Varish Prasad, there in Canada. The other Pandits I mentioned are all in the United States. We have Pandit Avadesh also, Prasad in Florida as well. So we have a number of
Pandit Keshav and Agni.
Right, and Pandit Keshav and Agni, who are coming up. They are here in Trinidad, of course. So it's the third wave, as Pandit G referred to it. Certainly, it is heartwarming. But of course, because of the present situation and the way the global climate is and the way job opportunities are for Pandits and for professionals, this is the one thing perhaps while our Pandits are educated, sometimes their job may take them elsewhere. And this has been the case for many of our Pandits. But at the same time, they hold true to the tradition of Swaha and the concepts and ideals of Swaha. And when the time is right and whenever they are able to, they do support and they are around because they are members of Swaha still wherever they go. And they will continue to support and continue to be part as far as possible. So that being said, we said it for the 30th anniversary. And even though with all of this, I don't want people to shy away, because Panagando say it's mentioning that we are looking for people of substance. And I'm saying, if any individual is willing, and for whatever reason you have an affinity for Swaha, you wish to become a Pandit of Swaha, we are not unapproachable, right, Panajaidat, Panagando? So,
Yeah.
so feel free. You can talk to any one of us or any one of the Swaha Pandits, right? And we can start, well, initiate things, if it is that, not initiate you, unless that's what you want to do, but initiate things, get the ball rolling, because it's not that we are an exclusive organization, because that's a comment that I've heard mentioned, right? And there's no secret here that people say, oh, Swaha Pandits, yes, they have a certain standard, but they are closed off and others cannot enter, and others not so. In fact, that may be the case with other organizations, but not with Swaha. But we have been, I can say we have been the victim, or we have been the object of and subjected to a lot of persecution, a lot of oppression, comments, harsh comments, unfair comments by many people over the years, and it continues until recently. Just recently, I'm hearing where we are making moves and we want people to work together. There are others who are publicly saying they don't want to work with Swaha. They would rather go it on their own. So if you want to go on your own, no problem. You go ahead, and we're not calling out any organization's name. You go on your own, work on your own, if that's what you wish. But Swaha, I think we are thinking higher than that. We think better than that. And it's not that we
Let
are
me just add,
boasting.
Panshisha.
We are not boasting. Go ahead, Pandit. Yeah.
I agree with you totally, because there may be a misunderstanding that we doesn't want people to come to Swaha, be a Pandits. There are certain things we don't want. None of Swaha Pandits smoke either ganja or cigarettes. None of Swaha Pandits drink rum or beer rum. None of Pandits Swaha engage in those kind of activities. So this is what you're talking about. You may not have everybody can have a degree, everybody can have a PhD, but you can come if you have the basic qualification, at least at basic level, something 5 levels, whatever it is. You can come, you have the background, and we can train you, we can take you up. All of us start from nothing and group. All of us had no qualification, but we became qualified going through it. So I agree, Panshisha, 100%.
And I want to make the one thing which may be controversial, but this is something that it is really a bother for Swaha and for many of the other Sanatanists, and I would say traditional Sanatanist Hindu organizations. And this is the rise of Pandits who have come from a different lineage and a different tradition. So we have nothing against anyone educating themselves, but the reality is, if you are willing and you're interested in being a Swaha Pandit, a Pandit of this Sanatanist Hindu organization, Swaha Incorporated, you must come from that Brahmin lineage. And this is something that is non-negotiable. It's something that we don't often say, but I'm saying it, and I hope neither of the noble pundits here have any objection to that. It has to be said, because we are seeing it. You're seeing it on social media. You are seeing some of the very popular pundits, not just here locally, but in other parts of the world also. We don't know what tradition they have come from. And in fact, there has been doubt cast on many of them, but you know what? People have forgotten that. But our ancestors were never like that. Your parents were never like that. They would know that Baba or that Guruji or that Pandit that they would, when they say Palagi Baba and they bow and they touch the foot, they would make sure they would only do that to a Pandit who has come from that Brahmin lineage. So you may not like what I'm saying, and you may say that, it's self-service that we are talking about, or self-righteous, we are talking about Brahmin Pandits. But if we are true to our Sanatanist philosophy, the Pandit, your guru, should come from a Brahmin lineage. Otherwise, you are making a mistake. And we have Swaha saying that. So this is something that we are making clear. Because we have had offers, there are others who have said, we want to join with Swaha. And when we check, they have not come from that lineage. So that is the one caveat, the one thing that we want to add. But feel free. You're welcome. Once you have come from that
I agree with you 100%. 100%. Totally. That's my personal view and the organization's view also. And Brahman, who is a Brahman? Normally you take it from, we all have history. You can check your ancestry, where they come from. You all know what part of India your ancestry came from. You know where their father and grandfather are Brahman. So that if you come from a Brahman family, but you're not practicing Panditari, I must have a reservation about that. But if you have come from a Brahmin family whose father is practicing Pandit, then that is absolutely no problem. We agree to you. I'll give you an example. Nowadays, you have people who sing our song. And Panjayat mentioned this, the acharan, the attitude. So they start, Raghu Kulari, Tisa, I start drinking water. When you sing our song, Swapa will never do that. That is not our attitude. You want to sing our song, you're so thirsty, you can't read a Ramayana without drinking water halfway. Where you're a chutney singer or something? What are you? So you can't performer, you must have a bottle of water and drink halfway when you sing a song. And the others, and this is something which we'll explain this, but take note of it. Eating is a very sacred act. Eating, feeding the body and the soul. Gita explains that. And nowadays you have pundits who eat in the left hand. I cannot accept that because that's not Hinduism. It's not our tradition. And there are scientific reasons for that. Pundits must not eat with the left hand. And anybody talk anything, I tell them flat. I am a left-hander. My left hand, my right hand for style. My left hand do everything. One time to eat, you must eat your right hand. The Shankara laid on our tradition. And that is why somebody mentioned recently, when time to eat, you go one side in one table. Because you don't know why someone eating the left hand. And when they bring your roti, you grab it and hold and pull it. So like pulling, eating acharan, right? Something different. So what I'm saying, because they do not follow the tradition of the Pandits, of Hinduism, of Brahman tradition, Brahminical tradition, they eat right hand, left hand, they eat all kinds of things. So Panjayat, sorry for carrying on so long.
That's fine, and that is something we have to discuss. And what you call Kulachan versus Sulachan, right?
Correct, yes.
Good attitudes, and we see that a lot of places. I mean, you go to Bandara, you go to puja, persons. Certain things we learn. And we're not saying everybody has to follow it, but there are certain attitudes that we are supposed to, that are ideal. So, for example, if you sit to eat, you wait till all your food is shared. You don't stick your hand in food and taste it. You wait for the others at the table to finish before you leave. Those are some of the things I remember when we were speaking about the Shankachar and Panagyan. Panadisha remember these things. When you sit on a table, you can't talk. You don't take so much food and leave back, and you take just enough to eat. I remember when the Shankachar would eat, when he takes the last piece of roti and he takes the last curry, that's it. He will just take enough. He wouldn't leave any. He wouldn't ask for more. He wouldn't speak when he's eating. So those type of attitudes, and some of that, those are the ideals that we want for the younger Hindus that are growing up. I myself, as it relates to the Pandit joining the organization, as it stands now, what is going to change in the future, I don't know. But right now, that the policy is that Pandits have to come from Brahman lineage. And besides being an organizational policy, I myself, that is something I believe in, something I subscribe. There are many that would hold that against us. I've lost friends because of that. And in my view, so be it. That is not negotiable, as both Pandits are saying. So we invite others to join. And I just want to, put on the education hat for a little bit and to make the distinction that when we say that our Pandits have to be educated, there's a difference between education and certification. You can have a certificate and not be educated. And both Pandits here, they can attest to that. You can go to an institution for 5 years and come out and not be able to think in a certain way. What really we want from our Pandits? There's what we call 21st century skills. The ability to be a critical thinker, the ability to be a problem solver, and some level of digital literacy, organizational skills. Those are the skills that are needed in the 21st century. And if you're educated, and that education comes through different mediums. So you go to, you attend school, you engage, and those skills are built. But in addition to that, we do have a mentorship program, or whether it's formalized or not. But I can tell you that my training and a lot of these things came from, from being a little child in Gyanipak, before the advent of Swaha, observing what is taking place, then, being with Pandit Prakash in Chiklan Temple, then going to Sukshanti for a little bit. I think at that time, I can't remember the name. It wasn't Sukshanti at that time. And just moving, being around the different Pandits, you would learn and you will understand. I learned a lot of management from Pandit Maideo, because that is something that I like, management, even more than, practicing Pandit, I like management. I think it's something I'm good at. It's something that I'm attracted to, and it's something that I have done well. So building temple and all of that has been, for me, the most enjoyable part of being a pundit. And everyone will have a different, something that will attract them, something that is different. But at the end of the day, together, all of the pundits with their qualifications, whether it be academic, whether it be professional, whatever, whatever skills that you are bringing, that we are looking for educated pundits. Educated mean a mindset, not necessarily a paper saying that you have a degree. It is a mindset, is a way of thinking, to be constructive, to be a problem solver, to show initiative, and to want to make a contribution. That is what we are looking for from our pundits. And that is why you're going to see that there's a select few pundits that are part of the organization. However, that is open to any person to become part of that. And the pundits are just part of the leadership of SWAHA. That beyond the pundits, there are other arms of the organization, our national executive, our branch executive. You can be part of the preschool, part of the high school, part of a committee, a national committee, that if you feel there's a contribution for you to make, you don't have to do that in a capacity as a pundit. You can do that in any capacity. You just need to have the will to want to serve. And once you have that, then we invite you to come and to join our organization. So I think that we have, we covered a lot today. And Panditji, I didn't keep track of the time that we started. I don't know how much time we have remaining in the program.
I think we have about 5-6 minutes to go.
5-6 minutes, all right. So I know that what we can do probably is just a touch on one topic, and we can discuss it further next week. And I know that on the 20, I believe it is tomorrow, will be Parashram Jayanti, and we wanted to discuss that a little bit. And we also wanted to discuss the issue of crime. So maybe we can, just say maybe 1 or 2 minutes on either one or one of them as we come to the end of the program. And we'll ask Pandit Gyande first, and then Pandit Ishwar, who will just close off the program as he normally does. So whichever topic, Pandit, you decide.
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about crime because it affects us directly in our ways. And I've seen people where people are thinking about actually hiring private security. It is a shame and disgrace on the government that hard-working farmers have to hire private security to protect their goods and protect themselves. And the advent of home invasion is so prevalent. And the Minister of National Security say there's not responsibility, I think.
No, it's most disgraceful to hear.
And the government doesn't have a big symposium to talk about crime. I was reading the news just now, and this is not about supporting or anything. Kamala Prasad said, let us strengthen the institution of the legal institution, make home invasion a crime with a big punishment, 50,000, 25,000, and 25 years in jail, something. Increase the punishment. So that these things are simple things you can do. Where the pepper spray is not happening. Yeah. But I put it simple. Apologies. I'm interacting with people who are West, who are going through this problem. And they are totally flabbergasted and totally disgusted that farmers, Ministry of Agriculture, I don't know if they are any interest in them, that farmers are suffering so much. And they are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and they have to take up in their hands to protect themselves. It reminds me of the road. People are fixing the road themselves. So apparently I know what the government is there for. So people are operating in spite of the government. This is how this country is running. And I don't know. I don't want to say. It's not my speaking, I'm speaking the truth. That crime is out of control and something needs to be done. But if the government adopts the attitude that everybody is the problem, that is not the Minister of National Security, he had not everybody, then so what you have government for? If you don't see a problem, how you will solve it? And that's the attitude of what's going on. The government doesn't seem to see a problem. So how do we solve it? Are you sure?
I was going to say that and this is no personal vendetta against the Minister of National Security by any stretch. And generally, we wouldn't speak out against individuals like this, but there are other countries where there's such failure and where crime is rampant. You see it. You actually look at you see it on the media, on BBC and Al Jazeera and so many other stations that you could look at, CNN. You see in other countries, the ministers resign. Nobody has to call on them and ask them to resign because they have failed in their job. And this is my assessment. Others may have another opinion. And if it is that it's not the job or duties and responsibilities of the minister, and we ascribe blame to the police service, that the police service are the ones that have to, but who is at the head? Who is the Minister of National Security? Everything filters down from that position, from that figurehead, that person who is there. Ultimately, someone has to accept responsibility for it. Who is going to? Is it the people who are being harassed and condemned? And the people who are afraid to go walk out, while others sit in the ivory tower and just make statements, spurious comments. So the fact is, people are unsafe, and those who are high up have the position, collecting the salary, and not doing enough. So I'm saying, as pundits of Swaha, and again, this is no indictment. It's not condemning without evidence or without warrant. And we have to be very guarded in what we are saying. We just are asking for something better to be done. We want to see our ministers and our leaders live up to the high ideals that we expect of them. And I'm saying in other countries where there's such failure, people call for resignation. In some cases, they resign without even having to for others to make a call. You see in Japan, people go and the leaders actually cry publicly as a form of apologizing. You may have seen that. They cry in front of everyone on the TV to apologize for the failure of the ministry or the government. But not here in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's getting worse and worse every day. That.
Yes, so we can end our program on that note, and a lot of discussions actually came out today. I have a whole page of notes, and I think for our next program we'll definitely have some more topics to discuss coming out of today's program. And as usual, continue sending your feedback through WhatsApp, any means. Many have my phone contact, and yeah.
One thing I just wanted to say, we mentioned Parshuram Jayanti tomorrow. It's actually the 22nd, right? 22nd, so Parshuram Jayanti is Saturday, the 22nd, is also Akshay Tritiya, a very special day also. And maybe even though the time would have passed next week, we could talk a little bit about Parshuram Jayanti. Will also be coming close to Sita Jayanti. So we'll speak about that for our next program. Parshuram Jayanti and Sita Naumi. Go ahead, Panditji.
1 second. Don't go by no goal. Because have to crime already. Don't run choose Saturday by goal. Because someone hold up and take your life and your goal too. Don't go by no goal now.
Yes.
Reminder.
and you could probably give the Katha about goal and Kalyug next time.
Right, correct. Bhagavad Katha.
So I'll take a note of that. All right, so this brings us to the end of today's program, and we just join in a short closing prayer. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Om Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bole Shri Swaha Mata
Ki Jai. Sitaram.
Sitaram, everyone.